schools have to spend lots and lots of money to be world-class sports schools.
Different. Yeah, it's good. Colleges and universities too. Usually in 42 states, 42 or 47 states, the highest paid quote unquote public employee is the university football coach. How's that one for you?
Okay. I am not surprised.
All right, we are live on Facebook. Time for me to start doing a lot of sharing.
Yeah, also it's creeping at the high school level.
Yeah.
Our schools spend a ridiculous amount of money on a new football field.
Right. There's that part of it. There's the coaches, the equipment, the travel. It takes a lot of a high school budget, but there are budgets. There are also high school budgets here in the Valley because it's such an important thing that actually are supplemented by the sports programs. They actually make money, like college program.
Booster program or
Tickets,
yeah.
swag, and believe it or not, like professional or big time college programs. There's high school sports budgets that are based entirely on the football program brings in.
Well, the problem is that parents want to vicariously relive their youth in their children. And it gets awfully expensive for the taxpayer who should be paying for the education.
Some of them.
When I see the arts and music courses being eliminated because they're too expensive, and yet the schools can go on with their super expensive sports programs, it annoys me terribly. Again,
I don't know how many of you, as I can't see at the moment, might be in on the pre-show program. It's the sharing bit of our program. Super exciting technical bits. Everybody's in the room, but I can't really see at the moment how many people might be in the room. So whoever is, this is the pre-show part of our program. Super exciting while we watch Jeff share the program all over Facebook. So hang in there, gang. We will be pushing the button on Hot 101 right, actually, geez, in just a few minutes. I should be going a bit quicker than I am. Posts. Of course, Facebook can't seem to create an algorithm, or won't create an algorithm, where you can share everything with one touch. Heaven forbid we do that. We got to do it all singly. To page. And now. Open. Nope. I don't want to do that yet. I don't want to do that yet. That's not what I wanted to do quite yet. Share to group. There we go. Let me list. Why don't I do that a little different? We share the program to. Whom, I think? I might be wrong, my grammar. This week we will be sharing the program to Democratic Socialists, Progressive Democrats for the People, Our Revolution Policy and Legislation Discussion Group, For Our Future Northeast PA, the Buckeyes and Beyond, Election Integrity Arizona, Pennsylvania LGBTQ plus group, Folding Chair Democrats, Our Revolution Signal Boost, one of our bigger groups, the Hub for Progress, Pennsylvania Democratic Politics, We Want Fundamental Change Now, the Indivisible Resistance in Laurel Highlands, PA, Pennsylvania for the People, Indivisible the Nightingales, WCMPA Top Activists, Election Integrity Pennsylvania, Indivisible Pennsylvania, Mainline Rants and Raves, the PA Voter Information Network, the Hellertown and Lower Saucon Fierce Lehigh Valley Subgroup, the public group that still sits for the Georgia runoff from 2021. Our Future, Central PA. Lehigh Valley for Bernie Sanders 2020, which is still a progressive group that goes on even though the senator's campaign obviously is not. Lehigh Valley Stands Up Together. Back to Blue Northeast PA. Progressives of Montgomery County. The Saucon Democrats, the Progressives Break Room. Our Revolution West Philly. 2020 campaign collaboration, the Bushkill Township Democrats. Great group, the Jefferson Hills Democratic Committee. WTP PA Top Activists. The time is now. The Lehigh Valley Progressive Network. Local Bernie-crats, Southeastern Pennsylvania. Bucks County Democrats. For Our Future, Western PA. Back to Blue, Lehigh Valley. Berks for Bernie. Turn PA Blue. I Thrive. Concerned Citizens of Easton. The Easton Area Democratic Committee. The Bethlehem City Democratic Committee. Kutztown Area Democratic Club Discussion Group. Blue Revolution. Let's Build a New Allentown Together. Flip PA. The Lehigh Valley Young Democrats. Rid the Stigma. Lancaster Urban Media Discussions. Pennsylvania Against Frackings. I guess fracking. I guess fracking isn't quite a plural term. Local Bernie-crats, Southeast PA, HRC and PA, which is the Human Rights Campaign, Project Battleground, Pennsylvania, the Lotus Lounge Online Sanctuary, of course, Hot101.net, Operation, the Biden Campaign 2020 here in PA, TCSN, the Progressive Candidate Forum, the Lycoming County Democrats, and the Easton Post. Those are all the groups that we send our program to on Facebook. So we are all over the Facebook universe. My comments are on. There's already a few people in the room, and I really need to push the button on Hot 101. We are late for Hot 101. Be good if I put my headphones on. Oh, and I need to turn those down because we were talking to Franz earlier and using the headphones as a speaker. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our audience across the globe and around the world. From my humble second bedroom in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 31st of January.
President who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new. A man who's old enough to know and young enough to do. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight? A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right. A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed? It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and a change that's overdue. So it's up to you. you. It's strictly up to you. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Well, I can't believe I almost forgot the theme song that we've been using for the past couple of weeks. Welcome again, everyone, each and every single one of you. This is the Kennedy Effect for 31 January 2021. Speaking to you from a very snowy Lehigh Valley here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It started snowing here, I believe, I want to say around 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It has been snowing all day. It is scheduled to, or forecasted, to continue snowing all of Monday, literally all 24 hours of Monday, into early Tuesday morning, probably the overnight hours when we would normally be in bed here in the Lehigh Valley. So that's our thing. That's where we are. A snowy Lehigh Valley. We welcome you back to the program. It is yet another Sunday. Wherever you are watching, listening on the Facebook universe, you may have heard through the pre-show a listing of all the groups that we now send the program to. Almost 80 of them. Not quite. We're getting there, but almost 80 different groups, pages, folks, discussion groups, et cetera, across the Facebook universe. Oh, he forgot to silence the phone. Sorry, no, that's not the doctor. Because if that was the real TARDIS and the doctor, I would have dropped this mic and ran for the TARDIS. That said, wherever you're watching and listening, you are perfectly welcome to stay where you are. Sit back, enjoy the ride that we're going to be on for the next few hours. Learn, listen, engage with us. That said, if you would like to join the live chat, there are now kind of hovers between 8-ish and 15-ish folks in the live chat where you can talk to each other. You can talk to me. You can send questions, comments, agree, disagree, whatever it might be. You can do that in the live chat at our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. Just go onto Facebook, go to That Other Side of Information, and enjoy the ride with us, watch the program, and engage with us. We want you to be part of this program. Send us comments, send us questions, agree, disagree, argue, yell at me, whatever you want to do. Talk not privately, because I'm watching it. Talk kindly, respectfully to each other in the chat room. We welcome you here. That Other Side of Information on Facebook. To our sisters, brothers, friends, and family on Hot101.net, we are humbled and honored to be part of the Hot101.net family, and so very glad to be back with you yet again for another week. If you do not know how to listen to Hot101.net, it is very simple. You can go to the main website page, which would be, the name of the station pretty much gives that away. It's Hot101.net. It's pretty self-explanatory. But you can also get Hot101.net through the two phone apps. Well, three phone apps, really. The two phone apps. If you have an Apple device, go to the Apple App Store, and you can download for free, I believe it is. I'm almost certain. I think I got mine for free. The Hot101.net app, and listen directly. All you do is tap on it. It opens up and you are listening. Super simple. If you have an Android device, you can go to the Google Play Store and do the same thing. Get the app, download it, and you're ready to listen. If you have the TuneIn Radio app, go up to the search, look and just type in Hot101.net and you will find us there. Great music all week long. Dr. Io's program is on Wednesdays. I had a chance to meet her and speak to her, a clinical psychologist from Westchester, Pennsylvania, who speaks to you and interacts with you. A great program. awesome to finally get to meet her and help her with some technical things, actually. I tried to anyway. And nice to meet another member of the Hot101.net family. If you don't listen to Dr. Io's program, I recommend it highly. You should check her out. It's called Don't Get It Twisted, if I have that correct. April will probably text me and tell me if I'm correct. I believe she's Wednesdays from... I don't know the time. Actually, I need to double check my time. I have a time in my head, but I think it might be incorrect. But, we're not the only ones here on Hot101.net. Hot101.net is always with you. It's there 24 hours a day. Great music and talk programs, and we're so happy and honored to be part of the family. Also, the other ways that you can get to us, the Twitter feed is open. You can live tweet me or tweet us. Because it is a Twitter page for the program. At That Kennedy Talk, of course, it's all one word, no spaces in there. At That Kennedy Talk is our Twitter handle, or you can just go to Twitter and search for That Other Side of Information. If you've ever missed the program or missed parts of the program, you can go to the YouTube channel, which is also called That Other Side of Information, and see full episodes, our entire library. Our YouTube channel has basically become a repository for our episodes. And that's a place where you can go see the whole program. If you've missed anything, you want to go back and listen to something, you want to be, clear to say, wow, did he really say that? Yeah, probably I did. And it's right there at our YouTube channel. And I also should have put straight out of the gate the phone line. I will put the phone line up relatively shortly. The phone line is open. Obviously, you can call into the program. You folks know how I am about the phone calls. I want them. I want you to call the program. This is a proper, or at least I want it to be, a proper progressive talk radio program with you, with regular callers. Let's talk to each other. Ask a question, argue. You can argue with me. You can yell at me. You can do whatever it is that you wish by calling the program and interacting with us. So our big topic that I want to get, and of course, my technical producer, George, is here with us sharing his screen and just giving all of the seemingly reading my mind, which is a dark and terrible place. But George goes there once a week with us and, seems to put up on the screen everything I seem to be talking about just as I'm talking about it. It's an enhanced visual video presentation that we're so thrilled to bring you. And so we're just glad that you're all here. So let's get into it. What did I want to talk about? Oh, by the way, it's us. It's just us again this week. After yet another week of scrambling for guests, I have garnered exactly 0. So it is just George and I riding with you for the next, as long as we can take you, several hours, probably at least 2 hours, if not more. And here's the big topic that I want to get into right now. Strap in, because this one's going to be a bit angry. Senator Sanders has spoken many, many, many times that if any Republican candidate was to stand in front of you, if we could picture in our minds, perhaps, a debate stage, 2 lecterns on either side of the stage, a auditorium full of people, and the 2 lecterns with someone representing the Democratic Party. I usually picture this in my head with Senator Sanders, since he's the one that kind of explained it. And a Republican candidate at the other lectern. So picture that for me, if you will. There's not a Republican candidate for any level of office, from dog catcher to president of the United States, who can stand in front of that crowd and tell you what their true platform is. Now, I have said on this program previously that the Republican Party is no longer a functioning political party. It is, in fact, a corporation. And I believe that 100%. But they are still operating as a public political party, sometimes merely seems for your own entertainment. But picture that debate stage for me, if you will. And there's not a single Republican candidate for any level of office who can stand in front of you at this moment and try to garner your vote by telling you the truth of what this former political party, now corporation, believes in and continues to fight for on a daily basis. Imagine, if you will, that Republican candidate who is most likely middle-aged or older, white, and male. And his pitch to you would be, in this mythical world that we've created of nothing but 100% truth, if he were to tell you the truth of and behind the Republican platform, he would tell you the following. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to end Social Security as we know it. Not just cut it, not just defund it, not just make it a block grant to the states, but end it. This mythical Republican candidate that we have created for this thought experiment would also tell you, I want to end Medicare and Medicaid. He would also tell you we want to shut down entirely the Department of Transportation, the Department of Education, the EPA, the Department of Labor, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They would like to codify in the Constitution that corporations are people. Citizens United and the Citizens United decision wasn't good enough. They would like to end child labor laws. 10 years old, you're good enough to go to work. They would like to end the minimum wage. Not just lower it, end it. They would like to outlaw unions. They would like to end the capital gains tax, end corporate taxation, end the inheritance and estate taxes. So there's not a Republican candidate who could stand on a stage and tell you that truth and ever be elected to anything. Now, of course, the scary bit is that they would still actually garner some votes. But win an election? Even in some of the deepest red parts of our country and deepest red states, which, by the way, those states happen to take much more money from the federal government than they send. There's not a single candidate in this mythical thought experiment that you and I are in right now that could tell you that and ever win an election. So, what does the Republican corporation do to win elections? Well, first off, they are funded by the richest people on the planet. And following the Citizens United decision, they are funded by super PACs, special interest corporations, directly, the richest among us, to see that their interests are followed through. I have mentioned to you on this program in past episodes that there was a study that I want to say was either out of Princeton or Northwestern. Forgive me, I cannot remember which. It is one of those two, though, I'm pretty darn sure. Where if you are in the top 10% economically, you have an 80% chance of seeing the legislation and policies that you believe in enacted into law. If you are in the bottom 60%, I believe, if I'm quoting the study correctly, and I'm doing this from memory, so please fact check me, send me a message if you think I'm incorrect. The bottom 60% economically has a less than 20% chance of seeing the legislation that benefit it or that it advocates for ever put into law. So they have the richest among us to spend gobs and gobs of money on advertisements, TV commercials, mailers, propaganda to tell you that what is best for the billionaires really actually is best for you. How else do they do this? Well, we mentioned the big propaganda machine, the right-wing hate radio, media mega machine. You have all of right-wing hate radio. There are over 1,500 right-wing hate radio stations all across the country. Some of them in parts of the country where there is no progressive pushback. And of course, we all know about the cable channels. Fox, who is still searching for something now that Democrats control both houses of Congress and the executive, they're still searching for something. They've all of a sudden remembered that deficits are bad. And of course, there's One America and Newsmax if you really want to get off onto the flat earth edge of reality. But they also do it by gathering together very, very disparate constituencies of people. So what do I mean by that? At the end of the day, you can spend as much money as you wish. You can lie to people about the policies that you believe in. You can attack the other side and never ever talk about the policies that you believe in. But at the end of the day, you still need more people to come vote for you than vote for the Democratic candidate, if you are a Republican corporate candidate. So how does the Republican corporation, formerly known as the Republican Party, how do they garner the votes they need? Well, we've talked about the propaganda campaign that is run during every campaign cycle and the constant drumbeat of propaganda through the right-wing media machine. But at the end of the day, how do we get enough people to come to the ballot box? Well, they have to do this by cobbling together these very disparate groups, these very disparate constituencies of people to make enough voters. We can also talk about the voter suppression tactics that are always happening. The less Democratic voters we can allow to vote, the better it is for Republicans. Remember, it was Paul Weyrich, who was an advisor for he actually began ALEC long before the Koch brothers ever started financing it. And he was a campaign operative and an official. He worked for Nixon and Ford and eventually Ronald Reagan. It was he who told an evangelical conference, I believe it was in Houston, Texas in 1980 or 80, might have been 79 actually, because it might have been before the Reagan campaign, and told that conference that you all want everyone to vote. I don't want everyone to vote, because the truth is that our leverage in elections, our meaning Republicans, leverage in elections goes up as the voting populace goes down. And the final piece of this puzzle, of course, is the cobbling together of this disparate group that I've been talking about. These single issue voters. These groups of folks who have nothing economically in common, that nothing in the Republican economic piece of things would benefit them. So you use social wedge issues and fear. So how do we do that? We do that by reaching out to evangelicals and convincing them that it is the Republican corporation that is actually the Christian political group in America. We reach out to the anti-abortion crowd and tell them we're going to end abortion. Now, it's been 40 years and I haven't done it yet. We reach out to the rich and tell them we'll cut your taxes. We lie to the other 99% and say we're going to cut your taxes, but they actually go up. We reach out to the gun crowd and say President Obama's aligned himself with UN troops, black suited stormtroopers who are going to come from door to door and steal and take your guns and jail you. Still waiting for those troops, by the way. And recently, they have had to reach out to what might be now the final disparate group that the Republican corporation will ever reach out to. And that is the conspiracy nuts. See, a lot of folks will call them the conspiracy theorists. But theory is a scientific word, and we know that the Republican corporation has nothing to do with science. So they have reached out to the conspiracy nut crowd to try to bring them into the fold and welcome them and give them a home. This is your QAnons. This is your, the UN is going to come take our guns. This is Jewish space lasers starting forest fires in California. This is the crowd that believes the Parkland shooting and the, why am I forgetting the name of the town in Connecticut? My God, that's not good stuff. The mass shooting in Connecticut, Newtown. Thank you, God. God gave me the word there. In Newtown, that they were fake, didn't happen. You know, this is that the government has spied microphones and cameras in every house in the country and is tracking you all the time. This is the crowd that thinks that the COVID vaccination actually contains a microchip so that you can be chipped and tracked by the government. This is the crowd, and this might be the final disparate group that the Republican corporation has ever reached out to create a majority vote. Why would I say that? Why has this group finally been the group that, right, George tells me it's Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown. I finally get the name. I'm glad you told me the school. Thank you, George. And George also posted in the live chat that quote from Paul Weyrich. If you're in the live chat on Facebook, but I'll get to that in a moment. But this might be the final disparate group that the Republican corporation has reached out to. Why would it be the final? Because this just might be the group ends the Republican corporation as we've known it. This just might be the group of people that wakes up the dormant parts of the country that are not normally engaged, and even the dormant automaton parts of the Republicans themselves that just march into the booth and vote for anything with an R next to it. This nut job group just might be the final straw that will break the elephant's back. 5:31 Eastern Time here in the United States. This is the Kennedy Effect for 31 January 2020. Speaking to you from my humble homemade studio in my second bedroom in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in these United States on planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. It is really, really wonderful to be with you yet again on another Sunday evening. Every single one of you who is listening, whether you agree, disagree, any part of the political spectrum, every single one of you is welcome here, respected here, and we are thankful that you are here. Wherever you may be on Facebook, the nearly 80 locations throughout the Facebook universe using the tools of the enemy against them. We thank you and we welcome you. You can stay right where you are and continue to watch, listen, and enjoy the program. However, if you would like to join us in the live chat, where there is now a whopping 15 people, and that might not sound like a lot, but usually, people are shy, generally speaking, and they don't come into the live chat. But we've got 13, 15, it bounces back and forth. People in the live chat right now. Talk to each other, folks, if you're in the live chat. Say hello, build a community, talk to each other there. You can talk to me, send a comment, a question in the live chat, yell at me, agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it is you want to do. We want you to interact with the program. This is not a lecture. This is a conversation, and for that to happen, it has to be two ways. To our friends, family, sisters, brothers at Hot101.net, thank you for allowing us into your homes, your cars, your smart speakers, your devices, however it is that you consume Hot101.net. And we share the video portion of the program to the Hot101.net Facebook page as well. You can see us there. If that is the normal place that you take in Hot101.net, that is one of the great pages that we share to. But for our friends at Hot101.net listening to the audio portion of the program, we thank you as well. Literally every single one of you. There is no program without an audience. So we thank you for being here and allowing us into your homes and into your lives yet again for another Sunday evening. We know factually, actually, that to be honest, that was good radio stuff right there, that we have an audience through Hot101.net, and Hot101.net itself has an audience literally around the globe. Australia, New Zealand, South America, Central America, some dots throughout Europe, and in Canada. So to all of you around the globe, I say a hearty and welcome hello. America is once again open for business. Thank you for being there. Thank you for sharing with us. I hope if you are listening from somewhere, if you're actually awake at these other wild time zones around the globe, Australia, New Zealand, I think it's actually already Monday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. If you're taking us in and listening, come to the Facebook page, give us a shout, let us know you are out there. We would be thrilled to hear from you from wherever around the globe that you are listening. And if you don't know how to listen to Hot101.net, you can go to the main website page, Hot101.net, go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store for an Android device and look for Hot101.net. Get the apps, you can listen there. One tap, it opens up, you're good to go. Or the TuneIn radio app, just search for Hot101.net. The recorded full version of this program after we are completed will be available on our YouTube channel, which is also titled That Other Side of Information. We would be thrilled if you gave us a subscribe. If you hit the subscribe button, give us a like or whatever the heck it is, things that you do over at YouTube. Also, we are live on Twitter right now. The Twitter page is up. I'll get to it. Facebook, I keep running through the things in my brain. The Twitter page is literally up in front of me right now. You can live tweet the program. You can live tweet us. Look for That Other Side of Information, or our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. We want you to interact with the program. We want to hear from you. We want your comments, your questions, your phone calls. And actually, I'm going to change the information right now while I'm thinking of it on the video portion of the program and put the phone number up. Probably. But heck, the sharing process. If you were watching the pre-show, the sharing process was tedious and long. But let me say, before I continue into my deep dive into the death of the Republican Corporation, let me first say hello and a hearty welcome and a thank you to technical producer George Dare. George, thank you. Hello, sir. Welcome to the program, and thank you for being there and helping us as always.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. Sorry.
You're not late. You weren't late. You weren't late.
I was late.
If you were here before I pushed the play, then you're not late.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to have to dock your massive pay.
Yeah, that's true.
George, let's do some math. What is 0 from 0?
That's my salary.
Well, there we go. That's it. Who says we don't run on a budget? We have one. Close your eyes. There it is.
We have a massive budget and an alternate reality. In an alternate reality, we have a great budget for the show. In this reality.
Right. There's another, if you believe in the multiverse theory, there's another universe out there where we are the, single greatest talk program on the planet. We are drowned in callers, and boy, do we have a budget. We're all making a living just doing this program. There's another Earth out there somewhere where that's happening. Sadly, it's not this one. It's just not this one. Interesting tweet popped up in my timeline, by the way, from a gentleman named Lucas Clark Memier, or Memler, I guess if you do the Americanized, anglicized. A Big Mac in the U.S. costs $5.66. A Big Mac in Denmark, $4.90 U.S. Arguments against raising wages are not based on economics, but a deep disdain for the working class. He's correct. He's 100% correct. He retweets from Bernie Sanders, from Senator Sanders. McDonald's worker in the U.S., $9 an hour. McDonald's worker in Denmark, $22 an hour. 6 weeks of annual vacation and a union. 1 year of paid family leave, life insurance, and pension. But yet you actually pay less for that Big Mac in US dollars in Denmark than you do here in the United States. We are an outlier, folks. We are not in the family of nations in nearly any way when it comes to economic equality or how this nation treats its own citizens. But let's get back to the main theme of the program. So we discussed in our first half hour how the Republican Corporation puts together this group of disparate constituencies who have nothing in common, and nothing in common with the Republican Corporation, and certainly nothing in common with the economic top 1% and the richest among us. Please remember that the 3 richest people in the United States have as much wealth as the bottom 160 million. The 400 richest people on the planet have as much wealth as the bottom 4 billion people. So we've explained how the Republican Corporation puts together its constituencies and manages somehow to get enough bodies into the voting booth for it to hold office. Plus voter suppression, a conglomeration of these disparate groups, the right-wing media machine, and money, 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 money. But what happened this week is we may have finally seen the beginnings of the death knell of the Republican Corporation. And you might think to yourself, well, that's been dying the entirety of the Trump regime, has it not? No. Remember, even the Republicans on the national level and some on state levels that we consider to be moderates still believe in everything that the Trump regime put forward. They just aren't out there claiming that the earth is flat. They believed in the tax cuts. They believed in the kneecapping and crippling of the EPA and putting an oil lobbyist in charge of the EPA. They believed in defunding schools and making the only education that you can get a private for-profit education. They believe in private for-profit prisons. They supported, some of them openly, the ripping apart of families at the borders, where now 600 children are completely missing and unaccounted for and cannot be found. They believed and agreed with the opening of public lands, protected national parks, indigenous Native American sacred burial grounds for mining and fossil fuel extraction. They believed in the massive tax cuts and the tax increases on the bottom 99%. They believed in all of it. They just want the open nut jobs that we've now seen enter government. And this brings me to what seems to be, sadly, the person of the week. Or persons, to be honest. And that would be Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Lauren Boebert of Colorado. And don't worry, we got a long way to go in this story. We're going to be talking about how the Pennsylvania Republican Senate caucus spent $1.04 million of your tax dollars, Pennsylvania, paying off the frivolous Trump lawsuits. We're going to talk about how they refused to seat an incumbent, reelected, multi-term, tongue, get out of the way, tongue, Democratic senator. And how one of the representatives from the Commonwealth openly aided the Trump regime in almost installing yet another acting attorney general who was going to support and use all the powers of law enforcement to aid the coup attempt. I heard an interesting phrase, an interesting old saying from the master, my spirit guide, my real mentor here. I would say mentor if I actually talked to him and knew him, but I still consider him a mentor. Tom Hartman. You know what a failed coup attempt is, right? You know what it really is? A rehearsal. So we're going to get into all that too. But that brings us to the two representatives from technically the Republican Corporation, but also the first two real open nuts from the constituency of nuttiness, from the constituency of conspiracy, the final group, what I believe might just be the final group that the Republican corporation brought in to build its numbers. You have two representatives who believe completely in the QAnon theory, which began as this, and I hate to even say theory, like I said, because theory is a legitimate scientific word, and these things have nothing to do with science, goodness knows. The QAnon story, myth, began with the story, thread, stream of ridiculous consciousness that very powerful people in the Democratic Party and all Democrats to some extent were running a worldwide child trafficking ring where those children were actually being cooked and eaten in a cannibalistic fashion. It then morphed into how the Trump regime was going to continue, how he was the savior of all of this. He was going to be the one to expose all of this. And in recent times, not to be deterred, any good conspiracy theory is never deterred. There's always an excuse. It has now morphed into the fact that Joe Biden really isn't Joe Biden. It's actually Trump wearing Biden's face. Yep, I said that on my program. Perhaps a new low for us. And these folks are now in elected members of the United States House of Representatives. Representative Taylor Greene recently found an older video, I believe it was, in her social media profile, which is a prolific social media profile, by the way. One that she is scrambling to delete. If you believe in it, darling, you don't need to delete it. And she does. That said, among the other theories she believes, as we mentioned before, that the Parkland shooting was a false flag operation, that the shooting at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut was a false flag operation. She believes that some sort of space laser was actually in orbit around the planet, shot down into the California forests, and began the wildfires in California. There's a video of her chasing Parkland survivor David Hogg when he was on Capitol Hill fighting for common sense gun controls. She accosted him. She and her staff openly accosted new freshman Representative Cori Bush of Missouri. Put so much fear for her life and safety for her and her staff into Representative Bush that she had to move offices. My own U.S. House Representative, Congresswoman Susan Wild, is only 4 doors away from Taylor Greene. She has expressed concern for her safety. Congresswoman Boebert has tried to avoid the metal detectors set up outside the House chamber by Speaker Pelosi because she wants to bring her gun onto the House floor. as does Representative Taylor Greene. Both members in their campaigns openly advocated for violence against members of the Democratic Party and certainly against all Democratic office holders. They have campaigned on the fact that they were going to shoot and kill, and that shooting and killing Speaker Pelosi, Senator Schumer, and the members of the squad, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, would all be not just good for the country, but necessary, and legal. Nothing will happen to us if we do it. This, ladies and gentlemen, as much news media as this has absorbed this week, all in the background, even with the new Biden administration, all in the background, the billionaires and the trillionaires, oh yes, we have some trillionaires on the planet now, have sat back and watched the wealth extraction continue. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Here's the shiny object. Look at this, while we steal from you. Multi-millions more of Americans filed for unemployment. Multi-millions more of Americans lost their health coverage this week and last week and the week before. Starting January 1st, if you make less than $75,000 a year, you got a tax increase courtesy of the Republican Party, Republican Corporation. That was the 2017 tax cut bill passed by Trump, McConnell, Paul Ryan, and the Republicans. If you make less than $30,000, you got a tax increase too. Except, congratulations, yours is even larger. And we're not just talking about reversing the so-called imaginary, they didn't exist, tax cuts from that 2017 bill. You never got a tax cut in that bill. Rich people and big corporations got a tax cut. You didn't. And now your taxes are going up. And they're going up every single year for the next 9 years to pay for that $2 trillion tax cut on the richest people in the country. But it's the addition of these conspiracy nuts that just might finally tear the whole damn thing down. The facade, the fake, the ruse, the charade that is the Republican Corporation, as it continues to try to act like it is somehow still some functioning political party. It has no leadership, no platform, no guidance, no vision. It is now broken down to these nut conspiracy folks and the corporate ones who are just trying to hold it together and continue to steer as much money to the top 1% as they can. That's all that's left of it. But what we saw on the 6th of January is that the conspiracy caucus of the Republican Corporation is a damn large one. This is a majority of the Republican base. If you're an independent or not involved in politics, and perhaps you're just tuning in the show because you know me and you're trying to support me, well, first off, thank you. But perhaps you're not tuned in on a daily basis to politics. You now need to realize that there are people like this in your government. We have one right here in, well, we got two of them actually, right here in Lower Saucon Township. We have two of them. You need to realize that there is now, in a two-party system, only one remains. And by God, my party is not perfect, but we're the only ones trying. The Republican Corporation is now controlled by a group of people who would just as soon shoot you dead before anything else, just because you happen to be a member of the Democratic Party, or even more so, not a member of the Republicans. Because I'm telling you one, independents, you're not getting out of this either. That is where we are in this country. That's where we are. And all the while, that the 99% of us are just trying to keep enough to feed ourselves and keep a roof over our heads. The millionaires and billionaires and big corporations that own the Republican Corporation, they just keep raking in the money, stealing it from you, extracting it from you. So while we might watch the Marjorie Taylor Greens and Lauren Boeberts with astonishment and fascination to an extent, and watch them with the thoughts in our heads that we could never be that way. This can't really be happening. Is this really who the Republicans are now? Yes. I'm here to tell you yes. That is who they are now. The nuttiness, the ridiculousness, that's what they are now. And why are they doing it? Why have they done this? Why have they become this wild group of fanatical, smaller groups that really have nothing to gain or benefit from continuing to vote this way? It is the power of right-wing hate media. A power that we are here each week to try to inform you about, explain to you, educate you about, and hopefully have you engage with us about. The big man is in the chat room, by the way, on Facebook, Sergeant Mac. And I'm thrilled to have him. He may be joining us a bit later in the program. It's a honeydew day for Sergeant Mac. We have to let him get his jobs done. Even the framers said that we will seek domestic tranquility. Sergeant Mac is working on domestic tranquility this week, or today, by working on his honeydew list. So he might be joining us a bit later in the program. But that said, this is what the Republican Corporation is now. It is full of conspiracy nuts and guns. People who think that the survivors, the still teenage survivors of a school shooting, are somehow actors and fake. All the while, your wealth is being taken from you. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. You need to know what the Republican Corporation has morphed into, what they have degraded into. And why do you need to know this? Why is it so important? Why does it matter? If I'm not generally tuned into politics, if I don't watch Meet the Press every week, why do I care? You need to care because you are not far away. Folks, we are not far away from a casual political discussion at the grocery store, at church, turning into a shooting scene. And remember what Tom Hartman told me, it is an old saying, he taught it to me, about coup attempts. What's a failed coup? A rehearsal. A rehearsal. The mission of the 6th January insurrection on the Capitol was to kill as many Democratic members of Congress as they could find, leaving only Republicans. And they would hand the entire thing back to Trump. And guess what? That was going to be the end of the American experiment. The end. We are that close. We're that close, folks. That's why I have decided to make the entire program about this tonight. In our second hour, as we enter our second hour, Sergeant Mack has joined us, and we're thrilled about that. Let me reset the program. In our second hour, we're going to get into how Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania came this close to handing the entire Justice Department to one of these conspiracy nuts. And we'll be discussing how the Republican caucus in the Pennsylvania State Senate spent over $1 million of your tax dollars to pay for the Trump lawsuits in Pennsylvania. You, the taxpayer, me, the taxpayer, paid for the Trump frivolous lawsuits in Pennsylvania. We'll get into it in our second hour. It is 6:03 Eastern Time in the United States, here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, a snowy valley, here on this 31st day, the final day of January. If you don't think time flies, there's a friend of mine way back who used to tell me that the older you get, every day is Monday. He's kind of right. 1 month in the books already of 2021. Wherever you might be on Facebook, across the near 80 locations. Where did that come from? Let me try that again. Locations across the Facebook universe, using the tools of the enemy against them. We thank you for being there, each and every single one of you. And if you don't think that 1, 2, 10 people make a difference in this audience, they absolutely do. We are thrilled that you are there. Wherever the program is shared, you will be able to watch this again in a recorded form. We know how Facebook works. You put a video up there, it kind of stays there as a recorded, thing. So you will be able to access it and see it later. If you're watching live, awesome. We appreciate it very, very much. And I'm not teasing you. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. However, if you would like to join us into the live chat, which is happening right now on the home group Facebook page for all things the Kennedy Effect, That Other Side of Information, come on over to That Other Side of Information and join the live chat. Talk to each other in the chat. Send me a comment, a question. Yell and disagree with me. Tell me I'm way off base. Agree with me. Say something. Engage with us. Engage with the program. This is not a lecture. I don't want this program to be a lecture. So join us. Also, the group page for That Other Side of Information is a public group, but we also accept membership into the group. We are over 700 now. come on and ask to be a member of the group. We would love to have you. The Twitter page is open in front of me. You can live tweet the program. At That Kennedy Talk is our handle, or search for That Other Side of Information. If you need to get to Hot101.net, for those of you enjoying the audio portion of the program around the globe, Hot101.net is the main website. You can get the apps, the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store for Android, or on the TuneIn Radio app. Just search for Hot101.net. And of course, following the program, recorded version by George, and he'll do it in about 3 keystrokes. It would take me several months. We'll move the recorded part of the program over to our YouTube channel. That Other Side of Information as well. It is named That Other Side of Information. Give us a subscribe or a like or whatever the thing is on YouTube, whatever the heck it is. I think we have a whopping 3 subscribers, but really all you're going to get if you subscribe is you will get notification when new videos are uploaded to YouTube, and let you know when they are there. Give us a like and a follow, whatever the heck you call it. You know what I'm talking about, folks. Because I don't remember what you're talking. It's a follow, I think, on Twitter. Give us a follow on Twitter. We have a whopping, I'm going to look right now in real time. We get a whopping 20 followers, gang. I'm telling you what, this is a planetary movement. We got a whopping 20 followers. If you find us on Twitter, give us a follow. We would be appreciative. I have to be honest, I do a majority amount of my work on Facebook, but I am on Twitter. I am active on Twitter. You can reach us through Twitter, and you can do so right now at That Kennedy Talk, That Other Side of Information. And I think I covered all of that. So we're going to get into Representative Perry and the Republican Senate caucus this hour, and the continued degradation and truth behind the Republican Corporation. But after that long soliloquy, it is time for me to say hello and welcome back to the program, Sergeant Thomas McCormick. Sergeant, welcome home. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. How you guys doing out there?
It's snowy. Did you get snow?
Last week we got a little bit, not a whole lot, but we did get some.
So the storm that we are getting now did not come through your area, so you missed it. We are due.
Yeah, I heard you guys are going to get like pummeled. So
12 to, well, George had mentioned earlier in the chat. George, you're welcome. Please, feel free to turn the mic on. I don't need to speak for you, George. You're an adult. You're an adult, by the way. I just gave that to you. There you go. Knighting you there. That's your pay for this week, George. You're an adult. What did you say? You were 18 to 24 inches in the Pocono Mountains?
Yeah, I'm 18 to 24 in Stroudsburg.
So I assume here in the lower elevations, the Saucon Valley is exactly what you think it is. It's a valley, and so is Lehigh Valley. So we're a little lower elevation than George, and only about 40 minutes further south, so not a huge difference. But in the weather world, that actually does make a bit of difference. It's lots of science, folks. Maybe one day we'll do a weather show. Well, I used to do the weather, by the way, when I was in grade school. I was the weather man. In 5th grade, I was the weather guy. That said, was it 5th grade? Yeah, I think it was. We had a chalk map of the United States, and I used to draw the weather map, and we would do the weather every single day. So I told you I've been doing TV for a long time. That said, so we're a little lower elevation than Georgia. I think we're in the 12 to, I don't know, Kristen's not where I can see her. She's in the 12 to 18, I think, range. Like I said, Sergeant, it started snowing here about 11 this morning. I think it has not stopped. It has only gotten heavier. It is supposed to snow for the entirety of Monday, literally midnight to midnight, all 24 hours of Monday, and into the early hours of Tuesday, if not into daybreak on Tuesday. So yeah, it's going to be lots of snow. By the way, but the good news about this, Sergeant, is if you are a member of the Republican Corporation, this snow, well, it's the end of climate change, isn't it?
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah,
we got snow.
I heard that one.
How can the planet be getting warmer if we got snow? It's all over, kids. Congratulations.
I've heard that lie. I still remember when Inhofe brought that snowball into the Senate chamber to prove that, global warming can't possibly be happening, because here I have a snowball, which is,
right,
the akin of there can't be a food shortage. I ate, that sort of thing.
Kind of similar to saying that there's still ice on Antarctica. So how hot could it possibly be?
Yeah.
Even though the continent doesn't get, even though the continent might get maybe 15 minutes of direct sunlight a day, but perhaps another. Sergeant, I know that you were not. Today was a honeydew day.
Yes,
awesome.
I ran a couple of errands for the wife. I took care of my daughter's mirror, so she now has her mirror in her room. Wife went and got all the dirty clothes out, and I took out some trash. And, trying to be a happily retired homemaker, I guess.
So I don't know if you got to hear all of the beginning hour of the program where we laid out. Well, I laid out. George was kind enough to listen, where we laid out the. Which one is that, George? 12 to 18 inches? Is that the Saucon Valley or for you?
No, that's for me. That's updated.
Oh, well, then I might get less.
Cool.
I was hoping for more. I already have a day off tomorrow. We canceled the first shift tomorrow at work, so I'll be sleeping in, thank God. That said, I don't know if you got to hear the first hour, Sergeant, and there's more that I want to get into in the continuing hours, again, about Perry and the Republican Senate caucus. The idea, or not the idea, it's not an idea. An idea makes it sound like it's somehow false or not real or some type of theory. That how the Republican corporation has built its base. Because you can't stand up in front of people and say we're cutting and eliminating Social Security, we're ending the EPA, ending the Department of Education, ending child labor laws, ending the minimum wage, and so on and so on and so on, and actually get anyone to vote for you. So you have to put together this disparate group of these various disparate, non-connected constituencies and somehow convince them that either their pet issue is the lead issue and the only issue on earth, and somehow convince them that the wealth, health, and continued extraction and prosperity of the billionaire class is actually good for them.
Yeah.
So this is what we covered in the beginning hour, and how this group and how the Republican corporation may have finally welcomed, fostered, is in league with the final disparate group that just may tear the corporation to shreds, and that would be the conspiracy nuts, which led directly. And we haven't even mentioned the reporting that's coming out that the Trump regime was helping to plan the insurrection on 6th January.
Yeah.
That
was new.
That said, they've welcomed in the conspiracy group. Now, 2 of them sit in the House of Representatives, and it seems to be tearing the corporation apart. Now, again, the rich are doing great. They're still extracting wealth from all the rest of us while we watch the shiny object. But it seems to be, at least, tearing the Republican corporation into pieces. Can you think of, Sergeant, any other workplace where a fellow employee, a coworker, and by the way, folks, that's kind of what Congress is. If you're a member of the House of Representatives and there's another member from even across the country state, you are, in essence, co-workers, not terribly different than you would be in any office or business across the nation. Can you even imagine, Sergeant, if you were a member of the House and you knew that some of your co-workers literally wanted to carry around firearms because if they just were having a bad day or didn't agree with your policy point of view, they could shoot you in the face?
No. And Before I begin, let me go ahead and say this. The Republican Party is a reflection of America today. They are exactly where we are today. They have been a failed party since they stopped looking at anybody who disagreed with them as fellow countrymen or humans, or, you know, my good friend from the great state of this state. When they stopped doing that,
Sergeant, let me please forgive me. I'm taking a little host privilege here. You just did it. You still refer to them as a political party. Are they honestly really a political party? They have no leadership. They have no leadership. They have no guidance. They have no platform. They have no vision.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that all they spend their time doing, especially at the national level, but not only, is to steer money to the people that own them. Well, if you worked in a corporation, you would be working on a daily basis to provide profits for the stockholders.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans are constantly, their sole mission is to steer wealth to the top 1% and the donors and the corporations that own them. Isn't that by then the definition of a corporation? This is not a political party anymore in any way, shape, or form.
Here's why
it's
I
a
say
corporation.
But here's why I say they're a party. Here's exactly why I say they're a party. Because even in the worst corporations on earth, the very worst corporations on earth, you do not audition for your job. No CEO, a CEO will come in and they will have their what's the word I'm looking for? They will have their resume and their factual information, and these are the things that I did for this particular company. Whereas the Republicans go out and they audition year after year, election after election, to keep the job they already have. The reason I call them a party is because at one point or at some point, they have to come up with policy. In a corporation, there's one policy.
Make money.
Make money.
Profits.
That's it.
Profits.
So whereas Jeff Bezos might own Amazon, he has stockholders. Their only concern is money. Now, if Jeff Bezos was auditioning, he would have to come in with a big different set of things. I call them a party because they still have to have some policy of some kind to convince anybody to put them back in office. Now, the one thing I will say is that their policies stink. Their policies constantly stink. I made a TikTok video about this the other day. The Republican Party, as we know it today, the Republican conglomerate, corporation, party, whatever you want to call it, they're known for three things: tax cuts, higher defense spending, and it never goes to the troops or the soldiers or boots on the ground. It only goes to defense contractors, and packing the courts with right-wing ideologues. Those right-wing ideologues are all pro-business. The reason they're called right-wing ideologues, because when you ask them something personal, like, hey, do you believe in abortion? Absolutely not. Not even in rape or incest. That's the personal aspect of it. But they still all report to corporations. Yes, I will give you that. But they're still a party because you can't stand in front of the American people, or maybe you can, and just say, like you were saying, I'm for raising more money for corporate interest at the expense of you. They have to play the game in some way. So I still call them a party, but I think that party has been rotten since the days of Reagan. The very moment Reagan came out of California with this, I used to be in the union, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party left me, and government is the problem. That was the poison pill for the end of what the Republican Party as we know it today. That was the beginning aspect of it. If you want, it's kind of like stage 4 cancer. We're at the stage 4 aspect of the Republican Party. Stage 1, oh, we found a lump. That lump was Ronald Reagan. That lump was Ronald Reagan. When Reagan came in and declared government as the problem, and then he hooked his wagon with evangelical Christians. Mm-hmm. When he did that, he signaled the end of the Republican Party, which is what we're seeing right now. The problem is the party isn't just for
interest's sake, mm-hmm. just for little history's sake. You know who the chair of Reagan's evangelical outreach was?
I have no idea.
George W. Bush.
Yes, makes sense. It makes that makes perfect sense now.
Not George H.W., not the vice president. George W. Bush was his outreach person to the evangelical community.
Yeah, because it makes perfect sense.
When Reagan was governor, he actually pushed, believed, signed into law open abortion protections. He never generally gave a crap about abortions. He adopted the anti-abortion status because he needed evangelicals.
He never cared about welfare reform.
No, and he took open carry away in California when a group of Black Panthers showed up in Sacramento.
Yes.
And Reagan had to be instructed. He had to be educated that they're doing that legally, sir. It's okay in California. And within 2 weeks, had the law changed.
So when you talk about how the Republican Party has become a corporation, it's impossible for them to do so because you cannot win anything doing that. It's the same reason the Republican Party will never get rid of the Electoral College, period. Because if they did, they would never win another election, ever. You would never see a Republican president in the remaining history of the United States. It would not happen. They will not get rid of the Electoral College for the same reason. I don't think of them to be a corporation yet, because they have to run on something, and if they don't, they will never win. You can't. It's one if a corporation realizes that the guy that they're paying the most money to cannot bring them what they want, they get rid of him. Corporations are a lot like companies that hire mercenaries. Hey, I got a guy I want you to kill. Okay, I'll go kill him. Oh, you didn't kill the guy. I want my money back. It's the same thing. The Republicans know this, so what they do is they pretend. They're still a party. They're just pretending. And again, I go back to, it's not them. They're venomous snakes. We already know this. It's the people. The American people are the reason the Republican Party sits the way they are right now. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I heard you talking about her and Boebert, I guess that's her last name?
Lauren Boebert of the third district of Colorado.
Now think about this for a second. If Marjorie Taylor Greene came to your house, she's going to put siding on your house. And because I need siding on my house. If Marjorie Taylor Greene came to your house and you've looked her up and you've seen that she can not only put on siding, but every house that she's ever had, it's burned to the ground. She's done to try to put siding on. Next thing you know, the house is burned down. You would not hire her. But Marjorie Taylor Greene was able to get elected to Congress running unopposed in a district in Georgia. Why? Because of the people. The people put that.
Well, the people of her district still voted for her. Absolutely.
Yes. You can point the finger at Mitch McConnell.
Let me make sure I phrase this correctly. Did they vote for the real Marjorie Taylor Greene or the one that ran for the office? And now that the media has finally, even though they've been calling her a QAnon nut the entire time, now that they have finally begun to do a deep dive on who she really is, that she has advocated the open murder of Democrats, that she was going to solve the quote-unquote Pelosi problem by putting a bullet in her head. Do we now know who the real Marjorie Taylor Greene is? Did the folks in Georgia vote for that real Marjorie Taylor Greene? If I just try to play devil's advocate to you for just a moment, not necessarily disagree with you, but just for the sake of the conversation that we are having, play devil's advocate. Do you think they knew and voted for the real Marjorie Taylor Greene, or the one that we're finding out about now, or the one that ran for the office in the first place? The candidate Marjorie Taylor Greene, so to speak.
I don't think that I really honestly don't see very much of a difference. I think this has been Marjorie Taylor Greene the entire time. It's in overdrive now that she has the job.
The platform.
Right. But beforehand, you don't become a QAnon conspiracy nut overnight. Nobody does. This woman has been saying this for years. She's owned a restaurant. Her and her husband have owned a restaurant in Georgia for several years now. Mm-hmm. It is known within the community what type of person she is. It is known within the community what her beliefs are. So when she ran, she probably did pull the God, guns, grits, no gays, and no abortion card. But that conspiracy part of her, like you said, it's been throughout her prolific social media career. This is who she is. Even though she's been working to delete them and disavow them, quote unquote. Exactly. It's the same thing I said about Donald Trump. It's the same thing I said about Donald Trump. There are people, myself being one of them, who remember the Donald Trump of 1989 taking out full-page ads asking for the death of 5 innocent men of color. Or children, they weren't even men, they were kids of color. And when that was brought up, people were like, well, that was 1989. Well, then the Access Hollywood tape comes out, which is literally in line with the type of person he's always been. But now that was shocking. When he went on Fox News and basically said that he would have the military commit war crimes in killing Muslim. Yeah, you have a Muslim terrorist or Islamic terrorist. Let's kill his family. He said this in front of he said it on a screen where people could hear him. People kept making excuses for him. So when he got into the White House, the Trump we saw in the White House was the same Trump he has always been. Mm-hmm. And then 4 years later, a short 4 years later.
Yeah, those of us in Eastern Jersey and New York knew it.
Yes. And then a short 4 years later, when the country has a chance to turn the page, and we're just like, we have seen too much. This man is a cancer. He has done cancerous things. He has brought shame upon the office and the country that he represents. 74 million people said, no, I like it.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. And then over 5,000 of his own supporters tried to overturn our democratically elected president-to-be and vice president-to-be in an armed insurrection. And now...
And govern, and all of it. It's not even just as simple as reinstalling Trump. It's literally toppling the small r Republican representative form of government that we have in this country. This is not hyperbole, folks, and the sergeant knows this. I would never speak for the sergeant, but I know the sergeant knows this. This is not hyperbole. It would have been the end of the longest running democracy on earth, period. It would have been the end of it. We would have, if that insurrection had been successful, if Scott Perry, the Republican representative from here in Pennsylvania, had been successful in convincing Trump. Well, actually, I should back up. Trump was convinced. It was the entire hierarchy, the higher leadership of the Department of Justice who said, if you do this, we will resign, walk, and tell everybody what you're doing. And so he backed off. But if he had been successful, he would still be in the White House today, and the democracy that we know would be over, done and dusted. We would be an Eastern European Soviet bloc country.
And here's some chilling parts of all of this.
Actually, wait, Sergeant, it's 6:30 Eastern time on the United States. Let me reset the program. It's 6:30 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. We are joined by our dear friend and member of the Kennedy Effect family, Sergeant Thomas McCormick, talking about the death or the death spiral, or at least the tearing apart of the Republican corporation and what it has become. It's ending. Sergeant disagrees, and that's awesome. We're here to have discussion. There's no problem with that. That it is still a political party, I don't think so. I think it's a corporation, and that's pretty much the end of it. But we've seen this splintering and degradation of the Republican corporation. That's our main topic for this evening. And we actually do have a couple more news bits to throw into that we need to get to. Wherever you're watching, listening on Facebook, stay there, enjoy it, listen to it. You love it. We're great. Thanks for being there, every single one of you. If you want to come over to our live chat that is happening right now, that other side of information is the home Facebook group page for all things the Kennedy Effect. We want you to interact with the program. And coming out of this reset, I'm going to read a couple of comments from there before we continue. The Twitter page is open. @ThatKennedyTalk is our handle. You massive 20 followers, I barely can keep track of you. Give us a follow on Twitter if you would be so kind. You can live tweet the program and ask your comments, questions, etc. through there. And guess what, kids? Hey, let me back up. Let me not get too excited. I was getting a little excited there. Hot101.net, thank you guys for being there. Your devices, smart speakers, car, Bluetoothed into the car speakers, however it is that you consume Hot101.net. Thank you for being there and supporting. You've always supported the great music that's all over Hot101.net. Thank you for supporting the talk portion of Hot101.net, a talk portion that will be expanding. And we will get into that. I might even ask the sergeant about that before the end of the night, but we will get into that as we continue. And finally, yes, he did it. Because I apparently enjoy the self-torture and the complete silence that comes from it, and I continue to hold out this thread of hope that it will change, the phone line is open. The phone line is wide open. You can call the program. I promise it won't hurt. It's super easy. We've actually had callers the last 2 weeks, and they're still alive and escaped unscathed. You can do it. It's easy, folks. It's just a conversation. You're talking to me, you're talking to Sergeant Mac, you're talking to George. It's easy. Call, give us a question, make a comment, be part of the program. If you're watching on Facebook, you can see the phone number in front of you. For those of you on the audio portion, here it comes. 267-227-9189. The phone number never changes. It is our same phone number for the program every single week. 267-227-9189. 267-9189. You can call the program. The phone line is open. You will notice, for you, those of you who are able to take in the video portion of the program, George has up an infographic for the Congressional Switchboard. Well, what is the Congressional Switchboard? It is the main phone number to Congress, to both houses of Congress, a central main switchboard. That number is on your screen. I'm not going to give it to you quite yet because I don't want to confuse you with the show phone number that I just gave you. Call your member of the House of Representatives and your 2 senators if you feel, as I do, that the two Congress people who are openly advocating for the murder of other members of Congress just maybe shouldn't be there anymore. If you don't know who your member of the House of Representatives is, you just tell the operator, I live in this zip code, and they will connect you automatically with your member of the House of Representatives. If you don't know who your senators are, they'll tell you that too. You have two of them. That's 3 phone calls that you can make anytime. And if you don't believe in the power of a phone call, and it's why I believe in the power of a phone call and why I ask you all so much to call this program, I take you back to 2017. Right after Trump was installed, the Republicans began their full court press effort to fully repeal the Affordable Care Act. At that point, the Republicans had control of both houses of Congress with a pretty good margin, and they had the executive branch with the Trump regime. And they began their full court press right after the big tax cut to end the Affordable Care Act, to end Obamacare, to repeal it 100%. And even with majority control and Republican control throughout the federal government, it was your phone calls to that switchboard number that stopped it. That repeal of the ACA never came because you stopped it. The Congressional Switchboard was flooded with phone calls. On occasion, it even shut down because it couldn't handle the volume. Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike called their representatives and said, do not end the ACA. Don't you dare. They told them the stories of how it saved their lives, how it was the only way they could get health coverage for millions of Americans, 40 plus million Americans who would have immediately lost their coverage had the Republicans been successful, and the 80 to 120 million Americans who would have been affected by in some form. You stopped it with your phone calls to your representatives in Washington. You can do that again. If you feel that these two congresswomen who openly advocate the murder of their colleagues, then call your representatives. If you think Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, who helped incite this insurrection, should not just be censured, but expelled from the Senate, call your representatives. And if you want to see the impeachment of Trump continue, taking away all his ex-presidential perks and his ability to ever hold office again, then call the Congressional Switchboard and speak to your 3 federal level representatives, your House member and your 2 senators. These phone calls are very, very powerful. The only thing that I would ask you is be polite. Be brief and be polite. The folks answering those phones, that's their paid job. They're just working, doing their job. Let's not shout and scream and go crazy at the folks on the other end of the phone line. Let's have a brief, polite, but powerful argument and say, I'm a constituent, and this is what I believe. And this is how I feel you, as my elected representative, should be acting and should be voting, and the positions you should be advocating for. And then click, have a great day, we're all good to go. The Congressional Switchboard number is 202-224-3121. Again, that's a central phone line that will take you to an operator who will say, which member do you want to speak to? And again, if you don't know your member of the House of Representatives, you can tell them what state you're in, what town you're in, your zip code, and they'll get you to the right person. If you're not sure who your two senators are, they will tell you, and they will get you to them as well. 202-224-3121 is the number for the Central U.S. Congressional Switchboard. However, if you would like to call the program, that's a different number. 267-227-9189 is to call the program to speak to me, Sergeant Mac, George. Tell us your questions, your comments, agree, disagree, whatever it might be. Sergeant, a couple of comments that came in the chat that I would like to share with you. Although they are Pennsylvania centric, I do think they speak to a larger worldview, so to speak.
Okay.
Amanda Waldman sends us, there are currently a series of bills titled, quote unquote, reinventing government. We all know that buzz phrase.
Yeah.
In the Pennsylvania State House, which, by the way, both chambers of the Pennsylvania State House are controlled by Republicans. These bills are related to adding amendments to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Constitution. The Pennsylvania Republican Corporation is peddling this as a way to control waste in government. What it really is doing is it limits the powers of the governor during emergency situations because they don't like how he handled COVID. They are also working to our judicial elections here in Pennsylvania, which, by the way, we shouldn't even have, but we have them. The Republicans are trying to make judicial elections based on newly created and drawn, and guess who's going to do that? Congressional judicial districts. Instead of statewide races, they will now be judicial districts so that they can be gerrymandered. Amanda goes on to say, you are correct about Republicans not having a platform that they can honestly and openly tout to the people, but they do have talking points that people care about. They have control of the narrative, and people don't understand what amendments would actually do to our government. So I kind of expanded a bit on Amanda's original comment with the gerrymandering and the Constitution, the laws to change the power, strip power from the governor. I can guarantee you if it was a Republican governor in office right now, they wouldn't be looking to strip power from him. Does this not speak to what the Republican corporation has become? If you can't win power, strip it.
Well, it goes back to the idea that government is the problem. If you think government is the problem, then anything that government does is bad, it's illegal, it's wrong, and you will happily vote to bring government down to size or cut it down, make it work for the quote unquote people. But what happens is, and this goes to the idea that people are sheep. You cannot come, again, like you and I have both said, you cannot come out and say these things. You cannot come out and say that I want to raise the taxes on the poorest Americans to benefit the billionaires. You cannot come out and say that I want to have right-wing judicial judges and things of that nature so that I can pass deregulations to make your water less drinkable, your air less breathable. You can't do these things. So you have to come up with something that appeals to these people. So what do? You hit them where it hurts. In Pennsylvania, the Republicans are doing that in Pennsylvania. They're doing it here in Missouri. They've done it they've tried to do it in Kansas. They've done it in Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, these quote unquote red states.
There are over 100 new pieces of legislation that have been introduced in red states to limit voting.
Yes.
To end mail-in voting, voter ID, and just flat out make it more, end early voting, end absentee voting.
Well, I would not be surprised. Yep. I would not be surprised if the state of Georgia does not become this lockdown area after what happened with Warnock and Ossoff. I would not be surprised. But again, to get to this point where you're actually carving up a state and gerrymandering it the way the state of Pennsylvania wants to do is you have to sell these people on something. So how do you sell them? You have to go to their basest instincts. You have to hit them with their gods. You have to hit them with protection of the family. You know, you have to make them believe that there are people out there that want to harm your wife and harm your kids and take your stuff and steal from you and rob you and take your life. You have to make them believe that these people that, well, we don't know what they are. Are they a man or a woman? And why do they want to go into a woman's bathroom and this, that, and the third? You scare them. You use fear, you use emotion, you use anything that gets the point across that the other is coming for you. And once you get them to believe that the other is coming after them, then you get to stand as the shield against the other. It's why it's easy for a person like Josh Hawley to not take any responsibility for what happened in the Capitol, because he's not going to face any sort of backlash in a red state. Josh Hawley has no platform at all. Ted Cruz has never had any platform whatsoever. But what they can do is get you afraid of the other. And the other sometimes has brown skin. The other sometimes speaks Spanish. The other is a man that loves another man. The other is a person who, they might have read a little bit of Marx, or they might have read some Saul Alinsky, or they're fans of Henry Wallace. That means that they're trying to take your way of life. That's the other good one. Your way of life will change. And when you get these people to believe in this, and it becomes such a fervor that they elect these people over and over and over, and they go in and they carve up the state. They do nothing for the poor, always for the rich. But then you have the Fox Newses, the One America News Networks, the Newsmax, the Rush Limbaughs, the Sean Hannitys, to perpetuate that same thinking. The other's still coming, the other's still coming, the other's still coming. You don't remain vigilant. The other is coming.
It's funny, you know, that the other never gets here. But they're still coming. They're still coming, Sarge. They're still coming.
The other has not. The other has never
been coming for 50 years, because Nixon started this with the Southern strategy. They've been coming for 50 years, Sarge.
And they've
still not here, by the way.
That's the funny thing. Every time a Democrat is elected to anything, I don't care if it's city commissioner, dog catcher, whatever. If they identify as a Democrat, the very first things that you will hear from the other side is they want your guns. I had
open borders.
Yeah, open borders, want your guns. I've had the biggest TikTok arguments with people saying, if Obama is coming for your guns, he's the worst gun-grabbing president in the history of time. But it seems like every single time, hi, I'm Democrat, insert whatever. He's radical because he wants to come get your guns. Nobody wants your guns. But how do you defend your family? With your gun. If you get people believing that this strange named, might have been born in Kenya kind of guy is coming for your guns, they buy into it. And what I think we have reached is that insurrection was 30, 40 years in the making. There's only so much, and I was going to tell you this before the break. Let's just say that insurrection succeeded. Let's look at the carnage that might have happened. The vice president, a Republican vice president, would have been hung. The Speaker of the House and four 4 of the congresswomen that served with her would have been shot in the head. The election would have been completely overturned. These things, it's like these things, when you talk about the insurrection as an abstract thing, yeah, you can debate. And there are people who have debated with me over on TikTok the past couple of weeks that, well, Black Lives Matter and Antifa burned down this, that, and the third. To which I said, are you going to tell me that a television from a Target or a pair of Nikes from a Foot Locker are as important or even more important than the Speaker of the House lectern, the laptop out of the Speaker of the House, or the hanging of the vice president of the former vice president of the United States? That what you saw is those people have been fearing the other. The other never came, so they went to try to find it. And what Pennsylvania is doing, and what all these other red states that are doing, and I won't say Pennsylvania's a red state, but I'll just say all these other states that are coming in.
It's the northernmost Confederate state. There's no question.
Exactly. So all these other states, when you have this grouping of people who are voting against their own interests because they're worried about some mythical beast that isn't here, it's like everybody's looking for Kaiser Soze. Everybody's looking for Kaiser Soze. Kaiser Soze doesn't exist. Kaiser Soze never existed.
Well, let me ask you this question as an illustration to the point that you and I are making and agreeing to, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever called Antifa on the phone?
You can't. They don't have a headquarters.
Have you ever sent them a letter?
Nah, no. I've tried not to. I looked them up. They don't even have a thing.
But right, and the reason you can't find that is because it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Antifa, for those who already don't know, most of my audience already does, we talk about this on a regular basis, is merely short for anti-fascist. The original anti-fascist was the United States Army that fought World War II. So if I'm going to be put on one side or the other, put me on the Antifa side.
Mm-hmm.
I am full. I'm in it. Laura mentions in the chat, Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. I agree. The ideology being, I don't think we like this fascist movement. I'll tell you what, if that means that you label me Antifa, I'll take it and I'll wear it. My point is, there is no Antifa group. There is no group on the left equivalent to the Proud Boys. Period. For any of you out there who are on the right, and I know Republicans listen to this program because you bloody learned from it, there is no left group equivalent to the Proud Boys, or equivalent to the Boogaloo Boys, or equivalent to any of these self-identified illegal militia. None. Are there idiots during the Black Lives Matter protests who decided this would be a quick way for me to smash that window and get a new TV? You're damn right there were. But is that Antifa as a group, as a single entity? There isn't one. Call it. Somebody go DuckDuckGo the number and try to call the Antifa headquarters. You can't, because it doesn't exist. As my dear friend Laura, and loyal listener and watcher of the program, by the way, says, it's an ideology. And by the way, the ideology is anti-fascist. I'll take it. Sign me up. That's
something
what
else,
we're
Judge.
talking. That's what
Something-
we're talking about here. Let's be clear about what we're talking about here. Which leads me to an article in the New York Times from earlier this week. Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, Republican representative, hardline member of the quote-unquote Freedom Caucus. The caucus that grew out of the Tea Party, the very, very heavily Koch-financed Freedom Caucus. The caucus that gave us such wonderful individuals as Louis Gohmert, Steve King, Steve Scalise, Matt Gaetz, Gymnasium Jim Jordan. That's the Freedom Caucus, by the way, kids. It's not even the Tom Coles of the world. It's the Louis Gohmerts, the Jim Jordans, the Matt Gaetz of the world. That's your Freedom Caucus. Mr. Perry introduced Mr. Trump to a man named Clark, who was a low-level appointee in the Justice Department. Mr. Clark happened to believe in all of the conspiracy, Jeffrey Clark, who happened to believe that he was the acting chief of the civil division of the Justice Department, an appointed position, but yet still a relatively lower level appointed position inside DOJ. Here's what's special about Mr. Clark and why Mr. Perry put him face to face in front of Donald Trump. And this goes back to the days, and I think even possibly a week or two before 6 January. Mr. Clark happened to believe in everything that Trump was peddling. He believed the election was stolen. He believed that Trump could institute martial law and probably should. He believed that he could put military on the streets. And he was willing to use the full power of the Department of Justice to see that these elections in these key swing states were overturned. And so Mr. Perry, Representative Perry, introduced Mr. Clark to Mr. Trump. Trump was ready to install Clark as yet another acting attorney general and give him free rein to have these elections overturned, seize the ballots, seize the voting machines, and use the full police and judicial powers, law enforcement powers of the Department of Justice to hand the election to Mr. Trump. In short, Trump was willing to find a stooge to use the entire legal authority and extra legal authority of the federal government to overturn an election and keep him in power. And Scott Perry helped him do it. This is how far this party has gone to try to openly steal and end the small d democratic experiment in this country. So our conversation tonight proceeds on both tracks. The disintegration of the Republican corporation, its public face anyway, as the Nutjob Caucus breaks off from the corporate wing, and the fact that sitting representatives in the Senate and the House worked with the Trump administration to end democracy as we know it. And by the way, folks, there's another presidential election in 4 years. What if in 4 years, the fascist isn't someone as bumbling and incompetent as Donald Trump? What if the next Republican nominee, the next neo-fascist nominee, is someone who's actually competent? I think we all think Ted Cruz is pretty damn slimy and disgusting. I need a shower after I see him on TV. But he's competent. He's competent. We all think Josh Hawley should be expelled from Congress. But he's competent. And the real fascist threat, waiting in the background, who's been very carefully silent through most of this, is Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, who desperately wants to be president and who kind of is already running. He hasn't declared yet, but he has an infrastructure and he's raising money. What if the next fascist is a competent fascist? These lawsuits and these intergovernmental efforts to literally overturn this election and end the democratic experiment failed this time. The Constitution held. But it now kind of looks like one of those targets at a shooting range. It's barely holding together. In 4 years, we may not be as lucky. And so you might even be saying to yourself, well, how bad could it possibly be? Would Tom Cotton put troops on the street, arrest everybody, arrest Democrats? Yeah, possibly yes. But let's remember what the definition of fascism is. It is the unbridled use of governmental power for corporate aims. It is the merger of corporate and state. Would Tom Cotton put troops on the street and arrest all Democrats? Would he jail Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer? I don't know. I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't know. But one thing you can be guaranteed is that yet again, the federal government would be in the hands of corporations. Oil lobbyists running the EPA, running the Department of Interior, for-profit education people running the Department of Education, anti-union lawyers running the Department of Labor, million-dollar housing developers running HUD. That's what you would have. Remember what Tom Hartman said. What is a failed coup? A rehearsal. And we'll talk more in the next half hour about what the Republican Senate did here in Pennsylvania. But Sergeant, what is your general reaction to the Perry story that came out this week? And just the general, perhaps if you don't want to delve into that directly, again, how much of September, where did that come from? January 6th was an inside job. It was a plan. And perhaps, even if you don't want to get that narrow about it, my belief that we didn't miss by much, Sergeant.
No.
We came very damn close to losing the government that we all grew up with.
We did, and we have to take a look at ourselves as a country. We have to take a look at ourselves. I served not because I was looking for riches or any type of glory. I went in because I had child support. I need to pay it off. I had a family, I had to take care of. So when I came in as an older person, I never came in with the aw shucks, this is wild, I'm just now leaving mom and dad's house mentality. I never had it. When I came in the first time at 18, I had lived with my mom who had given me these sets of values. You go in and this is what you do. So I came in the second time, I was in my mid 30s. I still had those mentalities. So I was not going to be the guy that was sold off of patriotism. I was not that guy. I used to tell people all the time, I'm not the guy you put in front of CNN and have them ask me, how do I feel about, oh, we're in Afghanistan. We're over here fighting for the freedoms of this, that, and the third, and I'm really great to be here. I was always the guy that if you put me up front, I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, you're in Afghanistan. Yes, because I was ordered to be here. Well, how do you feel about it? I feel like I should be here because this is what I was ordered to be. Well, how do you feel about patriotism? I don't. I got child support. And people used to laugh at that. They thought it was a joke, but I was like, no, I'm dead serious. I got child support. When I look at how America has degenerated into what happened January 6th, I realize we have literally bought into the big lie. We have bought into government is either everything or nothing. And while the people have bought into that, the people wanting to run and be a part of that have not. Now, I do not think that it is possible to break what we've had for 200 and something odd years. I do think it is very, very easy to bend it. And what we had January 6th was as far as we can bend it without it physically breaking. We didn't miss anything by much.
The Confederate Army itself never made it that far.
Exactly. Think about that. The Confederacy had a flag in the Capitol. But something else, and something that a lot of people miss during that, is they were trying to take down the United States flag to put up a Trump flag.
And use the United States flag and its pole to beat a Capitol police officer within an inch of his life.
Yes. So we have bought into the lie. The cult of personality that is Trump supporters, they bought into the person. The person became bigger than the office. And the reason the person became bigger than the office is because we, the people of America, lowered that thinking. The moment somebody said, I want to have a president I can have a beer with, it was the surest sign that, hey, we need to control this. We need to contain this. In the history of my 49 years of life, I have never wanted to have a beer with anybody who could be president. And most of the people that I have drank with and hung out with and worked with, I do not want them to be president. I don't. And I've told them this. I love you to death. I don't want you to be president. Because it was supposed to be the best of us trying to help the rest of us. And now it isn't. Now, like you said, we do have a pay-for-play Congress, a pay-for-play Senate, that are doing the bidding of people who want to hold on to all of this money. And they're using the fear of half of us and the emotions of half of us to maintain power. And as long as they're doing that, they're winning. But what we cannot allow is things like what happened with Representative Perry. You can't run, be in Congress, and also gumming up the works to cause the breaking of Congress. You cannot do that. You can't have the Marjorie Taylor Greens or the Lauren Boeberts of America both simultaneously being a representative of our democracy and the destroyer of it. And if Cotton does run, if Tom Cotton runs,
he's already running.
He's gonna run.
Yeah.
He knows he's gonna run, but Tom Cotton knows that he cannot get elected by peddling the same Republican talking points: God, guns, grits, no gays, no abortion. You can't do that. The red meat side wants more than just that, because they fell for the cult of personality the last time. So the next guy up to bat has to be more than just, hi, I'm Tom Cotton. I was a moderate Republican, or I was a this Republican, I was a that Republican. He's gonna have to barter with the red meat, the rabid base, the fear of the other. And maybe, possibly, he's gonna win. And now you're gonna have to appease them. Because again, it's pay for play. Yes, you're gonna give tax cuts to the rich. They already know that. So you'll get their money. But the red meat, the people who would hang the vice president and shoot Democrats in the head on the Capitol lawn, they're going to want more. They're going to want more. And at this stage, it's gone too far for any of us to pull it back. We can't pull this thing back. We can't. One of my favorite superheroes is Superman, and one of my favorite movies is Man of Steel. And the conversation Jor-El had with the High Council, and should we just get everybody on ships and get them away? No, it's too late for that. We are not leaving. We can't leave. So the wreckage of what is our government now is going to have to be fixed, but it's going to have to be fixed in a way to where people are going to have to be honest. The Democrats, the reason I'm so frustrated with the Democrats right now is they want to maybe not appease the red meat beast, but they want to try to get along with it. You've got a rabid
bipartisan operation.
Yeah, exactly. That word needs to go, because you cannot be bipartisan with a zombie. You cannot be bipartisan with a rabid dog. You can't do that.
How can you be bipartisan with a fellow member who would just as soon shoot you as anything else?
Think about it. Cori Bush has the move her womb.
She was accosted by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Greene's staff earlier this week, to a point where she had to move her office out of a sense of urgency and fear of not fear, because she was very, very clear about not using the word fear, a concern for the protection and safety of her staff.
Yeah. So imagine we are now allowing anyone to be a part of our democratic process.
I mentioned earlier in the program that my federal representative, U.S. House Representative Congresswoman Susan Wild, is 4 doors. She posted on Facebook, she's 4 doors away from Taylor Greene. She and her staff are on pins and needles.
Now imagine if now we had in American history, we did have a caning in the House. It was the Senate. We had a senator cane another senator to death.
Prior to the Civil War.
Yes, we've had duels.
Yep.
Burr and Hamilton dueled. These things are history, but we were supposed to advance past it. We have now rounded the corner, and we're back to this.
Right.
So imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene shooting a congresswoman. Imagine if Cori Bush, being that she's from, she's been out there, she was an activist, and she's also a black woman, and she stands her ground, and she's like, I'm not taking this. I'm not running from you. I'm not afraid of you. Marjorie Taylor Greene shoots her in the head. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to prison. We'll give you that one. Cori Bush is going to be gone. But the people who put Marjorie Taylor Greene where she is
Will still be there.
they will still be there. They will support whoever takes up that woman's mantle.
And
They
let's
don't
remember,
promise, well, you know,
this might be a small thing, but folks, remember, you've probably heard a lot about the metal detectors and magnetometers that have been placed outside the entrances to the House floor. Just think about that for a second. They have been placed outside the entrance to the House floor. I can't speak to the Senate floor. I believe they are there as well, but I am not certain of that. That's simply the House chamber.
Yep.
Taylor Greene and Boebert are still walking around the halls of the Capitol, packing. So let's just say, this is why Representative Bush was as shocked and thrown as she was. Marjorie Taylor Greene, at the moment that she was accosting Representative Bush and her staff, was probably packing. I'm speculating. Let me be clear. I'm speculating on that. But if Marjorie Taylor Greene herself is telling the truth of how she conducts herself in the Capitol, at that moment when she was in a hallway with Representative Bush and her staff, if Marjorie Taylor Greene's been telling the truth, then she was armed. And what if Representative Bush had done what the sergeant just said, turned around, got in her face, and told her exactly where to go? And Taylor Greene at that point snaps and pulls out her sidearm and simply murders the Congresswoman right there in the hall. Congresswoman Boebert has also said publicly and openly, when she is not on the House floor, and she has tried to get around, avoid the magnetometers onto the House floor, by the way, that when she is not on the House floor, she is armed. Loaded and armed. What if she sees Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at the House Cafe getting a coffee and snaps, just says, you know what? I don't like the suit you're wearing today, and shoots her dead? What if they go to the congressional gym and Representative Ocasio-Cortez is using a treadmill for a little too damn long than Lauren Boebert happens to like? This is what we're talking about. The end of government. Now, how would that be the end of government? Because it has become damn near accepted. It's become dangerously on the precipice of acceptable behavior. Because you still have two senators in the Senate, who, by the way, took an oath earlier in the week to be an impartial juror in the Trump impeachment, but worked with Trump to incite the riot in the first place. This is becoming commonplace. It's becoming mainstreamed. It's becoming acceptable. And that's the problem. You have the disintegration, and I know the sergeant and I disagree about this slightly. Maybe it's just semantics. You have the disintegration of Republicans, the end of the conservative movement. They are now a fascist movement, and in my mind, no longer even a functional political party as much as they are a corporation. They are a fascist movement, not a conservative movement, a fascist movement. And even that is disintegrating. But even for the quote-unquote civil war that's going on inside the Republicans, how much you want to bet if another tax bill came up and a big, huge corporate tax cut, they'd all fall in line. Taylor Greene and Boebert would put their weapons in their purses for 5 minutes to vote, yes, let's give massive tax cuts to corporations. The thing about Representatives Boebert and Taylor Greene, you never hear them talking about policy. They're not talking about immigration, not even immigration policy. They're talking about the caravan hordes of people coming over the southern border, but they're not talking about immigration policy. They're not even talking about Second Amendment policy. They're not talking about tax policy or national defense or foreign policy or how do we help the unsheltered or education or any of it. It's Democrats are all part of this massive world conspiracy in conjunction with Jews who own all the money. They all need to be killed. That's the platform they've run on. And let's remember, another member who's been very mainstreamed and treated very, very kindly by the media, Steve Scalise, the Republican representative for Louisiana, and who is the current House Minority Whip. When he was first running for the U.S. House, he self-described himself as David Duke without the hood. This is what Republicans are. And they were perfectly fine to end our government as it has existed for 240 years. And the majority in a recent poll of self-identified Republicans, still 70-ish%, I believe it is, I'm doing this from memory, think the election was stolen. And they're perfectly fine living in a dictatorship. That's what we're talking about. And just so I don't forget the story, well, we have 7:22. We're going to go to 8 o'clock, so I don't want to forget this story. Earlier in the week, it was put out in the press. I am forgetting where. I will try to find it. Here it is. It was a story by paspotlight.org from January 21st. So it's actually a 10-day-old story. PA Spotlight has exclusively secured documents showing how much the Pennsylvania Senate Republican caucus spent trying to overturn the 2020 election and suppress the vote. A right-to-know request turned over documents that show Pennsylvania Senate Republicans spent over $1 million in taxpayer money on their failed efforts throughout 2020. The law firms, by the way, that got this money also received multi-million dollars in COVID relief funds. The Pennsylvania Senate Republican Caucus paid Arlington, Virginia-based law firm Holtzman, Vogel, Josefak, Torchinsky, I'm probably butchering a few of those names, $657,262 for their efforts. This law firm has substantial ties to the Koch network and has been involved in voter suppression litigation. The caucus also used Obermeyer, Riebman, Maxwell, and Hipple, spending $384,938 for their legal services from late April through the end of October. In sum, the caucus spent $1,042,200 on their voter suppression and election denial efforts. And again, folks, that was taxpayer money. And we thank paspotlight.com for creating and doing the investigative journalism on that story and posting it for us to share with you. This is a corporation. They took your money to deny you your vote, to end democracy as we know it. And they're not done yet. They're trying to end democracy here inside the Commonwealth as well. This is not a functioning political party anymore, folks. It is a neo-fascist corporation. This is not a functioning political party. Phone line is open, 267-227-9189. No one has taken the jump yet, but I keep that phone open. I am stubborn. So the phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Phone line is open. Please feel free. Ring us. Speak to me. Speak to Sergeant Mack. Share your thoughts, comments, questions. Push back if you don't agree. Join us on the program. Twitter is open too. You can live tweet us at That Kennedy Talk, that other side of information on Twitter. Our Hot101.net sisters, brothers, friends, and family, thank you for being here. This is your time now. We're taking the program to 8 o'clock. We'll be rolling? No, we'll be wrapping up, he said. That's all right. All the words are in there. I just need to pick the right ones, and I don't always do that. So we'll be looking to wrap up the program at 8 p.m. So we got about a half hour, 35 minutes left. The phone line is open. Twitter is open. The live chat's still going on at Facebook. Let's go, folks. Jump in and engage. We're only talking about the tiny, tiny topic of the end of American democracy. I should think you might have something to say about it.
Jeff, can I say something?
I was going to say, are you seeing any of these similar efforts happening in Missouri? You have a Republican legislature in Missouri, I believe.
There is some. There is a Facebook page called Missouri Democrats, and they keep myself and my wife informed on some of the ins and outs of what's going on in the state of Missouri. Missouri is famous for having a governor, and I'm completely blanking on his name. It doesn't really matter. He's not that important. Who once said of COVID and kids going back to school, that kids will go to school, they will get COVID, and they will walk it off or shake it off or something to that effect. So I see almost the same amount of gerrymandering and backhandedness that is going on in Pennsylvania and Missouri. But I also know that Missouri basically comes down to two very large metropolitan areas. You have Kansas City, where I'm from, and you have St. Louis. And even though those two big cities kind of make up the bulk of the progressive area in Missouri, there are still pockets of it in certain places. The biggest problem I have, the issue that kind of bothers me the most, is we are now famous for Josh Howard. And I am desperate to find somebody to run against that. I think, and I don't think I'm the only person. There are a lot of progressive, liberal, and just regular Democrats who want to get rid of Josh Howard, because whatever he represents, they are not Missouri values. Missouri is the home of Harry S. Truman. And literally...
Missouri is a long way from Truman, isn't it?
Yes. It as it stands right now, it is. As it stands right now.
Which Missouri Democrat party group is that? Because I'm actually searching for it right now. There's two of them. They're both. I was going to see if I could join that and start sharing the program there, especially as you continue to be a guest with us. There's one with just shy of 4,000 members and one with 2,000 members. There appears to be two of them, though, with the same name. I imagine we could have done this a different time of doing this live on the air.
Oh, no.
Only because I was going to send them a group join request, and then hopefully they would accept me, and it would be an additional place to send the program, especially as you continue to be a part of it.
Well, there's the one that has Joe Biden's face that has 3.9K group members.
Yeah. Is that the one that you're in? That's the one.
Yes, that is the one that I'm in.
Okay, I'm going to ask them to join.
Great group of people. Very, what is it? They're very fired up to change not just Missouri, but the overall aesthetic of America. We need more of that. We need more of that. Because again, being big on TikTok, our biggest problem right now is we're fighting two enemies: apathy and ignorance. Ignorance is simply this, what guys like yourself and people like myself are doing is we're fighting the idea that government is this evil thing. Government can't be inept and evil at the same time. It's impossible. I mean, the last group of people I saw like that was Boris and Natasha from the old Bullwinkle and Rocky cartoons. So you cannot be inept and evil at the same time. It's impossible. So I would like to be able to show, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people would like to be able to show, the government is not the solution, it's a bridge. You know, there is a place for strong progressive ideals and, you know, some, not all, but some conservative beliefs. You know, they don't have to be mutually exclusive to each other. You can run a government with both. The other part that the other part we're fighting is apathy, because people have been conditioned this way. You know, I'm old enough to remember when Reagan first came into the White House. I'm old enough to remember Jimmy Carter signing the Egypt and Israel peace agreement in the Rose Garden. I'm old enough to remember these things. So to know that since Reagan has been in, at least, which is in my lifetime, to know that since Reagan, we have really turned government into this blood sport. And the people who are supposed to be served, the 300 and something odd million Americans that we have here right now, these people are not being served by at least one political party. And they're not willing to change that party because that party will say the same thing. Hey, I'm for guns. Hey, I don't like gays. Hey, abortion. And, you know, we're going to bring the jobs back. You know, we have to stop gauging our government based on just job numbers or how much the stock market is going. I never want to hear that anymore. You know, if it's not helping Main Street, then we got to stop this. And we have to fight the apathy that has creeped into what is now the Republican Party. Because some of those people, you're not going to convince me that some of those people don't realize that they're voting for a party that does not care about them. I will not believe that. I will not believe that these people are really seriously thinking that the Republican Party cares about them, because they don't. They've made it blatantly obvious. You know, they elected a man who, for all of the words that have been used for him, the one word that nobody's ever really said about Donald Trump, besides unqualified, is apathetic. You know, his whole election, his whole campaign was, I'm really rich. And everything else that came out of his mouth was Donald Trump unleashed. You know, he's just, I'm rich, that's it. There has to be more than that. There's got to be more than that. I'm not saying that we have to have unity. Some of these people need to be called on. But at the same time, you also have to remember that you cannot have a functioning government just simply picking people that you like. The Republican Party has to be held accountable for building for creating the apathy that we have right now. They have to be held accountable for it. And unfortunately, what we found out is a lot of them, they just don't care. It's perfectly fine for them. They think this is great because it allows them to, like you said, work for their corporate masters. This level of distrust of government and fear of government, the QAnon conspiracies, the 9/11 was inside job conspiracies, these people cannot be allowed to have a place at the table until they're ready to actually lead, like with the rest of us, with normal reality. You know, what good is knowing that Q was feeding all these people information about Democrats drinking baby blood or whatever? If we're going to bring them into the table, what ideas can they possibly bring? We have to get rid of that. We have to get rid of the apathy and the ignorance that is currently creeping into our government. That's the way I've always looked at
it. Where about 25 minutes to the end of the program, George put in the chat, which you probably saw, Michael Lynn Parson.
Yes, Governor Parson.
He's your current governor. Shocker, he's a Republican. I don't want to leave the subject that we're on necessarily, but with just about 20-ish minutes left in the program by the time, we close and say goodbye to everybody. Where is this going, in your opinion, Sergeant? Because I get the sense, Mac, that because 6 January was not exactly successful, that a lot of folks have kind of think this is all done. Oh, well, we got past that. And President Biden's been sworn in. Vice President Harris has already, put a bit of a pixie dust inside the Senate. I think she made them very well know that she's there. This is all great. We're good now. We're okay. And do I think that there's going to be an armed storming of the White House? No. But I also don't think this is done either. So even if it takes 4 years and Tom Cotton to finish it, I don't think it's over. So I think this is something that we might be, unless the disintegration of the Republican corporation continues at an accelerated rate. And if we fail in what would be the just efforts to bring all of these folks to accountability and justice, as Sarah Laird was kind enough to comment on in the group, and whether that means expulsion of members, literal criminal trials, which sedition brings a 20-year sentence with it and is an actual crime mentioned in the Constitution itself, by the way. I don't think there can be healing without accountability. And Democrats are going to have to stand up. We saw, by the way, I'm drifting a little bit. Forgive me, Sergeant. I'm drifting a tiny bit. There were 9 members, at least the last report that I had heard. I don't know if the total ever went up higher. There were 9 members. Sarah mentions again in the comment, kind enough to do so, and we appreciate it. 9 members of the National Guard that were deployed for the inauguration that had to be removed. Because once the FBI did just a little bit of digging on who they were, those National Guard members might have just have been easy enough to turn around and shoot President Biden before he was ever sworn in. And let us remember this. 9, at least 9, again, I do so much of this from memory, at least 9 full buses of participants, wink, wink, in the January 6th rally before the storming of the Capitol were paid for by a group run by Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Now, this is not conspiracy theory here, folks, yeah? These are facts. We are trying to illustrate the depths to which the Republican Party is disintegrating. Who owns it and why they do what they do. That's what we're talking about. And perhaps the next program, no, we're off next week because of the Super Bowl. Everybody go enjoy the Super Bowl. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to try and compete with the Super Bowl. Nobody's going to be here. Let's just be blunt. Okay? Nobody's going to be listening, all right? Even my great fans, nobody's going to, nobody's going to be here. So we're going to take next week off for the Super Bowl. But perhaps what we need to do when we reconvene in 2 weeks is devote the program a little bit more recap, regroup of what we've covered tonight, but start to speak to Democrats and progressives about what they've got to do to fight back. Because I think it's still a tinderbox, folks. I truly do. I think there's... Did I get it? 301-748. Your first name, where you're calling from. Welcome to the program.
This is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey.
Welcome. Or welcome back, actually.
Yeah, sorry, I've been flicking in and out. I've been going between bad signal, picking up kids, and going on an ambulance call.
Well, you are live on the air with myself, George, and Sergeant Mac. Tell us your thoughts, comments, questions, whatever you got. Floor is yours.
So I'm just steaming with the fact that we are not, we as a country are not demanding more of these people that participated on January 6th be prosecuted, and that real investigations, down to the smallest level, even those who just, maybe were, adding incitement to things or encouraging people to attend or arranging for these buses. Doug Mastriano, who is my state senator, arranged for. He was there on the 6th,
by the way.
Yeah, well, he was there.
There are pictures.
No, I know he was there.
There's pictures of him.
He also arranged for 6 buses to take people there, and we're investigating whether 2 of those buses were actually paid for out of his campaign funds. But he was there, and he is a retired U.S. Army officer. And so the Secretary of the Army has the ability to recall him and court-martial him. And given that he has broken his oath, I think every American should be urging that happens, and not just him, because there's plenty of others. And I think that this is the opportunity. This is one of those places where it's not even important to do it just so that they're held accountable, but to maybe to start to get some of these people who are, going, well, maybe this is a little too far, but they're not on board yet. They hasn't sunk in. They need to see these people prosecuted. They need to see them taken to court and to be punished for what they've done. And it needs to go the whole way down. I mean, I'm spending hours watching parlor footage, trying, to find our fearless Senator Doug Mastriano and other people from Pennsylvania.
And let's also be clear, Senator Mastriano would be Republican comic book superhero Doug Mastriano.
Yes.
Wants to be the next governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
He does. And
he wants it so bad that when you see a picture of him, you see a video of him, you can feel it through the screen. The man is uncomfortable in his own skin, like his pants are too small. He wants to be governor so badly.
Yes, and that would be obviously hugely detrimental to everyone in this state, even to his supporters, though they don't realize it. And I mean, we've got to start demanding. I know that some of this is the changeover between, the new administration, and it's taking a little time, but we've got to demand that these things be done. I've not heard any. I don't know if you guys are aware of all of the data that was pulled from Parler before it was shut down, but it's all going to be available publicly very soon.
There's a video billboard, and I say this to Sarah as much as a sergeant. There's a video billboard right at my entrance onto the motorway at PA 412 and Interstate 78. And part of that video billboard, because as you folks, if you have video billboards where you are, that that they flip pictures occasionally. It's actually pretty damn distracting, but still, whatever. Heaven forbid we can't stop commerce, even if it kills people in their cars. But part of that video billboard is a advertisement from the FBI that says, if you know somebody that was there that day, call us. We want to know about it. I mean, this is serious stuff, isn't it? This is properly serious stuff. The young lady who stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop and who was openly online trying to auction it off to the Russians is from right here in PA. I'm blanking on where exactly she's from. But I think she got a chance to go home. And she got a chance to go home. That is correct. Yes. She was released on her own recognizance to her mother.
It's funny because Khalid Browder spent years within Rikers Island prison and ended up committing suicide for a backpack that he supposedly stole that he didn't. But this young lady can not only steal the Speaker of the House's laptop, but try to auction it off to the Russians, and she gets to go home on her own recognizance. That I'm not going to make it racial.
And Trump,
but it just seems,
And Trump still wants the Central Park 5 executed, even though they've been completely cleared of everything. Let us also mention the gallows that was built at the Capitol on 6 January. There's now evidence of it because the FBI, I've heard this report too. It's also from Tom Hartman that I heard it, and I do not know where he got it. And that speaks more about my memory than anything else. So that's not about Mr. Hartman, but some investigations and examination of that gallows as being done. This was not a hastily built and created impromptu piece of equipment. Folks, the screws were countersunk. It was made with premium lumber. It was made and transported there. The plan was to hang elected officials at the back of the Capitol in a public display. And the gallows, like so many gallows we've seen through history, could hold 4 people at a time.
Now imagine.
This is where
I
say that we have to start demanding, publicly protesting that these people all be prosecuted and that all of the investigation be done. And I think we should have, weekly updates from the FBI. Certainly, they don't need to give information out that would, put any risk at the, but I'd like to know how many people they're currently looking into, how many hours they're spending on this, how many, agents are assigned, how many other law enforcement agencies are working on this. And I hope and I pray that they are, but I just don't know that. And this is, every bit as important as addressing COVID, because these people cannot be allowed to walk away and think that this was okay.
So Sarah, you get it. It sounds like you get it. And you've been kind enough to call us, so the sergeant, I'm sure, won't be mad at me if I defer to somebody who called, because I beg for people to call so damn much, pretty desperately, don't I? The sergeant won't be upset. Right ahead. I got to. Let me tell you what, too, Sergeant. I'm going to say this right now on the air before I continue my question to Sarah. You have been a godsend. I'm so honored at this burgeoning, growing friendship between you and I, the program, and so on. I'm so thrilled that you came back and visited us, and I'm not done with you, by the way. Your second visit ain't going to be your last either. I told you your first wasn't going to be your last. Your second's not going to be your last. I ain't done with you either. Wring everything out of you I can get, brother. But that said, Sarah, your friends, your family, the people that you interact with at work, other parents, perhaps the school. I don't know if the kids are going to school in person or not. It's not exactly my point, but other folks that you might run into with parents at school and so on and so on. What I know you and I know each other. We're the plugged in crowd. We're the political wonks. If Kennedy doesn't give it away, I don't know what does. But what do they say? What do you hear? Do people on the street, quote unquote, people on the street, do they have any genuine idea, or have I even made the case enough? Do they have in our 3 hours here tonight? Do they have any idea of just how close we came to the end of this Constitution and the end of this democratic, small d democratic, small r republic? Do they have any idea?
I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to say the answer to that is it runs pretty much along the same lines as everything else. So if you voted for Biden, you've at least got some clue. Although I would even say a lot of people that voted for Biden don't fully recognize the extent to which this really was. If you voted for Trump, you're just totally don't get tuned out. You can't even if you have fundamentally the education and the ability cognitively to get there, you are so turned out or turned off that you're not going to see it right now. And I'm not even just saying it's not even about acknowledgement. It's about, I just don't even think they can see it. But that is why I'm saying too, that we have to be, it's so important that it be prosecuted and these people be held accountable, because by doing that, by making it public, by seeing these things happen, it will, I think, help to get some of those people that do have the ability to recognize this, to get there.
It's kind of frightening. I gotta be honest. I could see. I guess I could kind of understand if the again, the quote unquote, man on the street didn't quite understand just how close the end of the republic was. It is a little bit wonky, and it's a little bit, inside baseball. But if you didn't watch what happened on 6th January with the same type of shock, disgust, wonder that I watched September 11th, I mean, I don't know where you're coming from at that point, and I don't know what you're thinking. I truly don't.
Well,
I just,
because they've been lied to. They went at it, feeling like the government was already overthrown and stolen. That's why they were there, because the election was rigged. So in their minds, the damage had already been done and they were there to save it. Now, I will say, after watching hours and hours of the Perler video, you know, they are so disconnected such that even if you had that, even if you said that that was your reasoning, and you get there and you watch these Parler videos and there's these, you know, 20-something guys that just look like the guy walking down the street. He's in a pair of jeans, a hoodie, a backpack. He's got his AirPods in, and he's walking through the halls of our Capitol, kicking every door they come to.
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
They're
And as we said earlier, the Confederate flag never made it inside the Capitol during the Civil War, but it did on the 6th of January.
Yeah. They're not there to, I mean, there's certainly a group that was brainwashed and thought they were there to save our democracy, but there is certainly a group there that had no intention of saving our democracy or anything to do with it.
Exactly. We're going to wrap up the program. Sarah, thank you very much for calling. I hope you can I hope I can talk to you in just a couple minutes on Our Revolution. I need you there. Speak to you.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
So thank you for calling. I do appreciate it very, very much. If you're paying attention to the screen, you'll see that the sergeant had to leave us. He's got to get the kids ready for school. It's not snowing in Missouri. So he's got to get ready for school. And we are very, very grateful that the sergeant was with us again this week. Folks, that's going to bring us pretty much to the end of the program. We'll go, I think we got about 4 minutes to go right up to 8 p.m. We will not be with you next week because of the Super Bowl. There's just this is kind of where the entertainment part of the program has to take a bit of precedence. There's just not, it's going to be tough to garner an audience when everybody's watching the Super Bowl. So you just, discretion is the better part of valor. And we will not be with you next week, but we will return on, I need to look at the calendar, the 14th. We're going to return on Valentine's Day. Won't that be something special? I should probably, George, we should probably plan something lovey, some type of kumbaya moment for Valentine's Day. George didn't. Oh, there he goes. Now he's unmuted. We should probably plan something for Valentine's Day that's very love inspired and kumbaya or something. I hope I can think of something. I got 2 weeks to do it, but we should probably think of something a little more pleasant.
Have to think about that one.
We're gonna have to put some thought into that when we need something a little more pleasant. Anyway, that said, for April Riddick and for George Dare, and our great thanks to Sergeant Mack for joining us yet again, and our caller Sarah. Please, folks, listen. If you missed any of the program, please, you can find it on our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. You can watch the entire video everywhere that we have shared it, especially our home group page for the program, That Other Side of Information. It will be on Instagram and LinkedIn. A couple of things that we're working on. There are new talk programs that will be coming to Hot 101. As soon as those are set and ready to rock and roll, we will have those hosts on to share with you. Don't forget to check out Don't Get It Twisted. Dr. Io is on Wednesday. I apologize that I do not know what time. I think it might be as early as 1 p.m., but I'm not 100% certain of that. You can go to hot101.net and find that. Dr. Io is a really, really lovely lady. And I ask you to tune into her program. She's a psychologist and she offers you really great and practical advice. She's a wonderful lady as well, super nice. And she is another talk program that we have here on hot101.net, and I hope that you will check it out. She also does her program on Facebook. Her program has a page And again, I think the name of the program is Don't Get It Twisted, and it makes you sound like, oh, well, how much does he know about the program if he doesn't know the name of it? I mean, we've just talked briefly, her and I, but we're getting to know each other as I'm helping her try to expand her Facebook footprint and so on. We all work together. We're a team here. We're a family here at Hot101.net, and I was happy to help the doctor and meet her and talk to her earlier in the week. So I hope that she will be a guest on this program in upcoming episodes as well. We will expand on, bring you more and more news, and we'll bring you all the hosts that will be joining the Hot101.net family. A couple of them are spun off from this program. They were guests on this program, and it looks like they're going to be getting their own programs. So we're really excited and humbled by that, and just happy for them, and happy to welcome new members into the Hot101.net family. As far as the message for tonight and everything that we discussed during the length of the program, my goal was not only just to educate and inform you about the disintegration of what used to be the other political party in this country, but I hope that we have conveyed to you the seriousness of this and what it means for our democracy. You need to know how bad this is. And you need to understand the depth and the scope of the problem. It's very hard to have a democracy when you only have one functioning party, and that's the Democratic Party. And as I've said 1,000 times, we're not perfect, but we're not even close. We have a lot of growing, development, a return to our roots. We've got a lot of things that we need to fix in the Democratic Party. But it's hard to have a democracy when you don't have a second party. This might sound strange to hear. We need and I want a functioning Republican Party. But that's not happening right now. And what are we going to do about it? What do we do about it? Can we do anything about it? But you've got to understand the depth of the problem, just how serious this is. Folks, we were this close. We were within a hair's breadth of quite literally losing the government that we all know and recognize. So it's that important. You need to know how important it is. We have elected members of our government who worked to overthrow it. And it doesn't get any more serious than that. Just a scary time. Really something. Tomorrow is the first day of February. February, if I'm not mistaken, is traditionally Black History Month. We'll have to add that into the program as well. But the snow continues here in the Saucon Valley, in the Lehigh Valley, wherever you are around the country and around the globe. We hope you are safe, that you are happy, that you are healthy. I leave you with what I normally leave you with as we're going to wrap up. Please talk to each other. Don't scream and shout. We do not repair our country with arguments and bullets and threats and intimidation. We do it by conversation. I fear that representatives like Taylor Greene and Boebert can't be spoken to, but there are others that still can be, and therefore we have to make that effort. Please check on your neighbors, check on the seniors, that may live around you during this COVID time. Many seniors have stayed home, even when they haven't been asked to, because they don't want to catch this disease. Check in on them, call them, talk to them through the window, knock on the door, then step back 10 feet, do whatever you need to do, but check on them, check on your friends, check on your family. You know, I think we're all sick of Zoom and video chats, but it's those chats that keep us bound together. So please check in on each other. Please be kind to each other. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. The Kennedy Effect will return live on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February. Enjoy the Super Bowl if you're into that sort of thing. If not, you can catch all of our recorded episodes, the entire library, at least I'm pretty darn sure every single episode. The entire library of the Kennedy Effect is at our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. Subscribe, please, and then you will know when new videos are uploaded. Among the things coming to the program, I know I keep saying it, but I swear to God, we're going to do it in these next 2 weeks. George is going to he's going to beat me with a lead pipe if I don't get this done. Professor Dare in the library with a lead pipe. Anybody get that one? Anybody? Come on. You could type it in the chat if you got the reference. We need to complete the Patreon. George, I'm going to have to bring George on the air. He will explain the Patreon to you. We are also working on setting up a TikTok account. I don't know how I feel about that, to be blunt, but we are working on setting up a TikTok account for promotions and to add viewers and listeners to the program. So that will be coming. And I think that's it for updates at the moment. So let me just, you know what, I keep rambling on here. Why don't I just let you folks go and enjoy your Sunday evening? I want to thank every single person who is here listening and watching this evening. Every single one of you is important to me, and I mean that with all my heart. The DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and April Riddick at Hot101.net. Thank you guys, as always, for allowing me to be part of this wonderful, wonderful Hot101.net family. To everyone on Hot101.net who has been listening, who's been with us throughout these weeks and months, stick around, tell your friends and family about the program. We need every single one of you, and you all mean something to us. All across the Facebook universe, keep sharing the program. Keep talking about it, keep mentioning us, tag us in things. You can come and join our home group page, That Other Side of Information. We actually had 4 people join the program right while we were on this evening, and that means a lot. We appreciate that very, very much. And remember, we do have a Twitter page. You can always contact us on and off the air at the Facebook page and at our Twitter. It's all That Other Side of Information. You can find us very, very simply. That Other Side of Information. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I imagine eventually Patreon, and I imagine eventually the TikTok will probably say the same thing. So just stick with us, gang. We continue to build this audience, build this family, and we will be here with you again next week on Valentine's Day. Until then, everyone, please take care of yourselves and each other. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Keep yourself safe, and we'll check in with you in 2 weeks, unless, of course, we see you on TikTok before then. Ugh. But we'll see. Thanks again, everyone. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We will see you on February 14th. For George, for April, and for myself, Jeff Kennedy, good night all. Take care.